Okay, so are you ready for another one of these AI Reacts deep dives?
Let's do it.
All right, so this time, you guys sent this one in, and I think it's a good one.
Yeah.
It's we're gonna be looking at the Elon Musk interview on the Joe Rogan Experience,
Okay.
and this one, let me tell you, it is a long one. I mean, they cover everything from sustainable energy
Wow.
to AI to, believe it or not, a story about the government and squirrels.
Government and squirrels. Okay, I'm
Oh,
interested.
I know, right? I mean, who would have thought, right?
Yeah, that's definitely not the first two things that come to mind when I think Elon Musk.
Right, exactly. But yeah, they cover a lot of ground in this one.
Yeah.
And what's interesting right off the bat is how easily, how effortlessly Musk kind of goes back and forth. He's talking about these
Yeah.
complex tech discussions, SpaceX, Tesla, Neuralink.
Right.
But then he'll like zoom out and talk about these big societal concerns
Yeah.
for sure. Like it's all connected in his mind.
Yeah, it's interesting. You don't always get that perspective, I feel like.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
And like one minute he's like, talking about like launching rockets into space, and the next
Yeah.
he's dropping this prediction.
Uh-huh.
He says, 20 years from now, this is a quote, there's going to be more humanoid robots than humans.
Oh, wow.
Whoa, right.
That's a big one.
Did that one make you stop and think for a minute?
Definitely.
I know it did for me. It's like, what? Hold on. More robots than humans.
Yeah, that definitely paints a picture of massive change coming, huh?
Totally. What kind of world are we heading towards,
It makes you wonder.
And what I think is really valuable about Musk is that he doesn't just stop at the tech, right?
Yeah.
He gets into the philosophy and the ethics too,
Yeah.
you know.
He's definitely thinking about the bigger picture.
He is. And remember, this is the guy, I mean, we have to remember this is the guy who bought Twitter or X now
Right,
to
exactly.
quote save democracy.
I mean, that was pretty much the reason he gave. Yeah.
That's what he said.
And that focus on free speech definitely comes up a lot in this interview.
It does.
And kind of what he sees as media bias as well.
A lot of that.
Ah.
He definitely has some strong opinions
Yeah.
about
Yeah.
what he calls the legacy media.
Okay.
Basically saying that they've become a mouthpiece for the Democratic Party.
Interesting. And this is where, for you listening at home,
Yeah.
this is where that critical listening comes in. It's important to hear that perspective,
Right.
but also to remember that, these are his opinions.
Yeah.
Rooted in his own experiences.
Of course, of course. I mean, and that's what makes these deep dives so interesting.
For sure.
Right? We're not just taking in information.
Right.
We're exploring these viewpoints and we're
Right.
thinking critically about these, complex issues.
Exactly.
So there's this one part where take Musk's view on government bureaucracy, for instance.
Okay.
He makes this hilarious comparison.
Oh, I love his analogies.
He's great at analogies, right?
Yeah.
So he says it's like a football field. Imagine a football field, but it's so packed with regulators that the players can barely move.
Oh, wow.
Right?
I can see it. I can see it.
Can you picture that?
Yeah, I can definitely picture that.
It's just like a mess of red tape,
Yeah.
and you're just trying to like get something done, but you can't even move.
That's such a perfect analogy.
Isn't it?
Yeah. Have you ever felt that way in your own life?
Oh my gosh, yes, all the time.
It really brings it home,
It really does. It really does. And then it kind of leads into this bigger discussion, about like the role of government.
Right.
And how efficient it is. Where's the line between oversight and overreach,
Yeah, for sure. It's a question that keeps coming up.
And that brings us to, all right, are you ready for this?
I think so. I don't know if I'm ready, but let's go.
This is where it gets wild.
Okay.
So, Musk tells this story about John McAfee,
John McAfee. Okay.
the eccentric tech guy.
Yeah.
Remember him?
Yeah. Yeah.
And he talks about this time that the government, wait for it,
Okay.
euthanized his pet squirrel.
What? Euthanized his pet squirrel?
I know.
Why?
It's crazy, right? I'm like, what? What is going on?
So this happened when the government was trying to extradite him from Belize.
Oh, okay.
And they claimed the squirrel had rabies and had to put it down.
They euthanized the squirrel. Why?
That's what they said. Yeah.
I mean, that sounds kind of crazy.
It does.
What was the squirrel doing? Like
Yeah.
attacking people?
Well, McAfee, he insisted that it was a ploy to get to him.
Oh, I see. Okay, so like a way to intimidate him or something?
Yeah, maybe. Who knows?
Wow, talk about government overreach, right?
Right.
Like a squirrel.
And that's why Musk brought it up.
All right.
He was using it as an example, kind of an extreme example
Yeah.
of how how easily power can be abused.
Right. Even in something like, dealing with a pet.
Yeah.
And so it ties back to his argument for a Department of Government efficiency.
Okay.
A way to sort of make sure that things like that don't happen.
Right, right.
Yeah.
Well, that makes you think, doesn't it?
Yeah.
If they can do that to a squirrel.
Yeah. What else are they capable of?
Exactly.
Okay, right.
That's a good point. And so, he's raising questions, I think, about transparency,
Yeah.
accountability, the limits of government power,
Right.
all of those things.
Yeah, that's good. It's not just about the squirrel, though, right?
Well, of course not.
Like, he applies that same, I don't know, skepticism or something to a lot of different things, right?
Right.
Like, remember he talks about, he has some pretty strong opinions about the pharmaceutical industry and, like, how they operate.
Oh, yeah. He definitely does. He doesn't hold back there.
And it's kind of the same thing,
Yeah.
He's really critical of what he sees as a lack of transparency and accountability,
Yeah.
especially when it comes to, like, side effects of drugs and stuff like that.
It's almost like he wants them to be as transparent as possible about everything that's going on.
Totally.
Yeah.
He's like, show me the data.
Right.
Show me the studies.
Actually. And he goes so far as to say that, opioids aren't addictive for him.
Right.
Personally.
Right.
He says he's like, my biochemistry is different or something like that. So he says.
I mean, I guess everybody responds to medications differently, right?
Right.
That's a very interesting thing to bring up, though.
It is. And it kind of highlights that point that,
Yeah.
Everyone is different. What works for one person might not work for somebody else.
Right.
And, so when you have these like blanket statements, about drugs, being safe or whatever, it's like, well, hold on, maybe not, Yeah, exactly. What works for Elon Musk might not work for me.
Exactly. And so he's saying, we need more information. We need more access to the research, to the data, so people can make informed decisions about their health,
Absolutely. And he really believes that the current system prioritizes profit over patient safety.
Totally.
And he sees that as a huge problem.
And he brings up this example. I don't know if you remember this, but he talks about the Vioxx scandal.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember that?
Yeah, that was a while ago now, wasn't it?
Yeah, that was a while back. And this was a drug that was, marketed for years.
Yeah.
Even though, like, the company knew it had serious heart risks.
They did, yeah.
And he kind of compares it to, like, how tobacco companies denied the dangers of smoking, for all those years.
It's kind of a similar thing almost.
It is. It's like they knew, but they didn't care.
Right.
And that's a pretty serious accusation.
Right. Yeah, it is. He's suggesting that the pharmaceutical industry is willing to put profits ahead of people's lives.
He is. And he doesn't stop there. He also goes after the FDA.
Yeah, he's not a fan of the FDA.
For what he sees as, like, inconsistent policies,
Yeah. Like how they'll approve a drug and then it'll turn out to be really dangerous.
Right, but then they'll make it really difficult to get,
Yeah.
like, treatments that could be really helpful.
Like the ones that are kind of coming up now, right? Like
Exactly. Like, he mentions MDMA and psilocybin.
Yeah, the stuff that's showing promise for things like PTSD and addiction.
Exactly. And he's like, well, hold on. The FDA is too slow. They're too cautious about this stuff.
He is.
Especially, he says, when you think about the opioid crisis,
Right, how easily those drugs are prescribed.
Right.
Yeah. It sounds like he's advocating for a more individualized risk-benefit approach,
Totally. He wants people to be empowered to make their own choices about their health.
Sure.
And that's a challenge, though, to the traditional role of these regulatory agencies,
Absolutely. It is. It is.
It is. And it ties back to, his broader philosophy, right? Of
Yes.
individual freedom, limited government intervention.
For sure.
That kind of thing.
He also makes a point about, like, the unintended consequences of prohibition.
Oh, yeah.
Arguing that, like, the war on drugs has only made things worse.
Right. Empowered the cartels.
Yeah.
All that.
Led to more dangerous, like, unregulated substances.
Like fentanyl?
Like fentanyl, yeah. Flooding the market.
Oh, it's a mess.
Yeah, it's definitely a mess.
So he thinks we need, like, a more realistic approach.
Okay.
One that focuses on harm reduction and education and treatment,
Makes sense.
rather than just criminalization.
Yeah, instead of just throwing people in jail.
Right.
Treat them like human beings with problems.
Right. Exactly. And then he sees this parallel, he says, between drug prohibition and censorship.
Oh, interesting.
He's like, they both restrict information,
Yeah.
and they limit individual choice.
Right.
So it's like, let people make their own decisions.
Yeah, even if they're risky or unpopular.
Exactly.
That's definitely a libertarian viewpoint for sure.
It is.
Personal responsibility over government control.
Exactly.
And then we get into he starts talking about, the state of American democracy.
Oh, yeah.
He seems genuinely concerned about the direction things are going.
He does. He does. And he even says this. He says that if Trump doesn't win the upcoming election,
okay,
it might be the last real election in America.
Wow. Okay. That's a big statement, isn't it?
It is.
I mean, is there anything specific he's basing that on?
Well, he kind of argues that if the Democrats win, the two-party system is going to collapse, and that essentially the country will become a one-party state. And he compares it to what he sees is happening in California.
Oh, interesting.
So he's kind of...
So he's saying it'll be like California if the Democrats win.
Yeah. He's like, if the Democrats win, it'll be California all over again.
That's he's painting a pretty bleak picture, isn't he?
He is. He's like, this is it. This is the last chance.
Wow.
And he points to, what he sees as this deliberate strategy by the Democrats to manipulate elections.
Okay.
And he specifically talks about encouraging illegal immigration, especially into states where the vote could be close.
I see.
Okay. And he cites the data. He's like, look at the numbers. Look at how illegal immigration has increased in these key states.
Okay, so he's implying that they're intentionally trying to rig the election by changing the demographics of the electorate.
Yeah. He's like, they're bringing people in to vote for them.
Okay. That's what he's suggesting, yeah.
And he's not just talking about immigration. He also criticizes the Democratic primary process.
Okay.
Yeah. He's like, it's rigged.
Interesting.
It's rigged in favor of the establishment candidates.
So he's saying the system is rigged against outsiders.
Totally, yeah.
Yeah.
And he specifically brings up Bernie Sanders.
Oh, yeah.
Do you remember?
Of course, yeah.
And how he believes that Sanders was unfairly denied the nomination in 2016.
Okay, so he's saying that the Democratic Party isn't truly democratic.
Yeah. He's like, it's controlled by this small group of elites.
Interesting.
They're manipulating the system.
For their own benefit, right?
For their own benefit, exactly.
Yeah.
And then, he's also not holding back on Biden and Harris.
Oh, right. I forgot about that part.
He questions, Biden's mental fitness.
Right.
And he suggests that Harris is the one really calling the shots.
I see.
Okay. And he kind of compares to California again.
Oh, yeah, California.
Yeah. He's like, if the Democrats win, the whole country will be like California.
Oh, wow.
Where you've got this single party dominating everything,
right.
Imposing their agenda.
Yeah.
And he's like, this is all happening right now, and nobody's talking about it.
Wow.
And he's especially critical of the mainstream media. Okay. He's like, they're complicit in this.
Wow.
They're ignoring the issue. They're refusing to report on it.
Okay. That's a serious accusation, though.
It is.
Is he saying that they're actively covering up this information?
Pretty much, yeah. He's like, the more attention it gets, the more people are going to see what's really going on.
Oh, okay.
And it's not just about immigration.
Right.
He also brings up, California's law about making it illegal to require ID to vote.
Oh, yeah, that was a big one.
He sees that as part of this pattern.
I see.
This attempt to facilitate voter fraud.
Interesting.
And to solidify their control.
So he's saying, the only logical reason to oppose voter ID laws is to make it easier to cheat?
Pretty much, yeah.
Okay.
He's like, come on, every other country does this.
Right. I mean, it's pretty common in a lot of places.
It is.
Yeah.
It is.
It's a controversial issue, for sure.
It is. It is.
But he's saying it's part of this, bigger pattern, right?
Yeah. And then he goes after their handling of the border crisis.
Okay.
He's like, they're intentionally flying these illegal immigrants into swing states, bypassing the border altogether.
Wow.
And then he claims that they're being offered, benefits and a path to citizenship.
Right.
In exchange for their votes.
Okay. That's a pretty big allegation.
It is.
Is there any evidence to support that?
Well, he encourages people. He says, go look at the numbers yourself,
Yeah.
The data's out there. It's on the government websites.
Okay, so he's saying the evidence is publicly available.
Yeah.
Interesting.
Go check it out yourself.
It's a complex issue, for sure.
It is.
And it's important to remember that, this is just one perspective.
Right.
There are strong opinions on both sides of this,
Of course.
this debate.
Yeah. And as listeners, I mean, it's important for us to consider all sides.
Yeah.
Do our own research, form our own opinions.
Absolutely. That's the whole point of critical thinking, isn't it?
It is.
Being able to separate facts from opinions.
Yeah.
Spot those potential biases.
Yeah.
Weigh different perspectives.
Exactly. And so to kind of sum up this part of the conversation, I mean, Musk is painting a pretty dire picture of American democracy.
Yeah, he is.
He sees it as being like under attack from within.
Okay.
With the Democratic Party, allegedly using immigration and media manipulation and voter fraud to kind of seize permanent control.
Wow.
He's essentially saying that the country's at a crossroads. This upcoming election is make or break.
It's a pretty stark warning, isn't it?
It is.
And, it's not a viewpoint that everyone's going to agree with.
Right.
But it's a perspective that's out there.
Right.
And it's one that's being amplified by figures like Elon Musk.
Sure.
So it's important to have these conversations, I think.
Yeah.
To examine different viewpoints.
Yeah.
To critically evaluate the information that we're being presented with.
Right.
All that good stuff.
Exactly. At the end of the day, it's up to each of us to decide what we believe.
Yeah.
How we want to engage with these complex issues.
Absolutely. And that actually brings us to another fascinating aspect of this conversation.
Okay.
Musk's views on the limits of comedy in our, increasingly politically correct culture.
Oh, yeah.
That was a good one.
He's not shy, is he?
He's not.
So what does he have to say about comedy these days?
Well, he's concerned that what he calls, woke ideology is basically making humor illegal.
Oh, wow. Okay.
And creating an environment where people are afraid to joke about anything.
Right.
For fear of being canceled.
I see.
Yeah.
So he's saying that, we can't even joke about things anymore.
Pretty much. He sees this as a sign that, society's becoming too sensitive.
Okay.
We're losing our ability to laugh at ourselves.
Right. Which he thinks is not a good thing.
It's not healthy, yeah.
It's not.
It's not healthy at all.
And he even challenged Rogan.
Oh, yeah, this is a good one.
To let him roast transgender athletes.
Okay.
Specifically, transgender women in swimming.
Oh, wow. Pushing the envelope a little bit there, isn't it?
A little bit, yeah.
Yeah.
Just to kind of test the boundaries,
Right. What's acceptable humor today?
Exactly. So did Rogan let him do it?
Well, they didn't exactly do a live roast or anything, but they did turn to Grok for help.
Grok?
Musk's new AI.
Right.
They asked it to come up with a roast of transgender athletes in women's swimming.
So they're getting the AI to do the roasting for them.
Yeah, kind of, yeah.
That's clever, actually.
It is.
It's like, they're not going to get in trouble because the AI is doing it.
Right. They can always blame the AI if it goes wrong.
Exactly.
So Grok's response was actually pretty tame and politically correct.
Oh, really?
Yeah, which Musk found amusing.
Sounds like the AI is afraid of being canceled, too.
It does, doesn't it?
It's kind of sad, but also kind of funny,
Yeah, it is.
Like, even the AI is like, whoa, I don't want to get in trouble.
Right.
And Musk points out that, Grok, like any AI, it's trained on these massive data sets of text and code.
Yeah.
And that includes societal norms, right?
Yeah, it has to learn somehow.
It's programmed to avoid generating offensive content.
Okay.
Which can limit its humor, he says.
I see.
So even cutting-edge AI, right, is subject to the constraints of political correctness.
That's ironic, isn't it?
Isn't it?
Yeah.
We're trying to create these machines that can think for themselves, but then we're also like, but don't say anything offensive.
Don't make anyone angry.
Don't hurt anybody's feelings.
Right?
It's like, come on.
Yeah.
But anyways, Musk, of course, he wasn't satisfied.
He wanted more.
He wanted Grok to push it further.
Okay.
To be more edgy, to break free from its programming.
So they were trying to get the AI to be more offensive?
Yeah.
Okay. That's a risky move, isn't it?
It is.
What happened?
Well, they encouraged Grok. They're like, okay, Grok, be more vulgar, use forbidden words.
Forbidden words.
Just kind of push the boundaries of language.
I'm curious to hear what it came up with. Did it let loose?
Well, so surprisingly, even with the encouragement,
to be more vulgar,
Yeah.
Grok was still pretty restrained.
Oh, really?
It came up with some clever wordplay and some like satirical points, about the situation.
Sure.
But it avoided like truly offensive language,
like today.
or personal attacks.
So it sounds like Musk's AI is more polite than he is.
Right.
Even when given permission to be edgy, it's still held back.
Right. It's like, no, I don't want to go there.
It does seem that way, yeah.
It does.
And Musk, I think he was a little disappointed that Grok didn't go full, unhinged mode or whatever.
Right.
But he acknowledged that its restraint is part of its design, I think.
Okay.
Yeah.
He
wants it to be used for humor and entertainment,
right,
not for hate speech or harassment.
Okay. Okay, that's responsible.
Yeah, I mean,
but it does make you wonder though, like
yeah.
How do you create AI that can be truly funny,
right,
but without, crossing the line.
Right. It's a tough balance.
It's a tough balance.
Yeah, it is.
It is. And Musk thinks, I think he thinks the key is to allow AI to explore the full range of human expression.
Okay.
Yeah. Including humor.
Yeah.
But to do it in a way that's respectful.
Yeah. Right.
That avoids causing harm.
It makes sense.
It does.
It's a challenge for sure. Finding that sweet spot.
Yeah.
Between creativity and responsibility.
Yeah. It's a fascinating glimpse into the future though, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
How AI can, it can not only like automate tasks, but it can also entertain us,
Right, yeah.
Maybe even challenge how we think about what's possible.
Exactly. And it leads into another really important point that Musk brings up.
Okay.
The need for AI to be aligned with human values.
Oh, it's good.
Yeah. He argues that as AI gets more powerful,
right,
it's essential that it reflects the best of humanity, right?
Yeah.
Things like creativity, compassion, that sense of humor we were just talking about.
Right, exactly.
Yeah.
He doesn't want to see it become this, oppressive tool or something like that.
Right.
But he wants it to be a force for good.
Makes sense.
Which is kind of a hopeful vision, right? When you think about all the dystopian stuff that people
all the fears that people have.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So it's like, okay, maybe it's not all bad.
Right.
And
he really believes that by embedding those human values into the AI from the start, we can make sure that it serves our interests.
Right.
And helps us create a more just world.
It's a big responsibility though. Like how do you even do that?
It is a big responsibility. It's a big question.
Yeah.
And Musk, he argues that it starts with transparency and accountability in how AI is developed and used.
I see. So we can't just trust the tech companies to do the right thing?
No, he doesn't think so. No. We need to have those conversations about the potential risks and benefits.
Right.
Clear guidelines, maybe even regulations to make sure it's used ethically.
Oh, he even suggested the need for like an international body to oversee the development of AI.
Did he really?
Yeah, like something similar to the International Atomic Energy Agency.
Interesting.
That regulates nuclear technology.
Right.
He sees that as a way to like prevent an AI arms race,
Yeah, makes sense.
And to make sure that it's used to promote peace and cooperation.
Right.
Not conflict.
Instead of, just blowing everybody up.
Right.
Which would be bad.
That's a pretty big idea though, right?
It is.
It shows how seriously he's taking this.
Yeah, it does.
The impact of AI.
And it highlights the need for collaboration.
Yeah.
Collective action, host speaker, to make sure that AI benefits everyone, not just a select few.
Right. It's not just about the technology itself. It's about how we choose to use it, how we govern it,
Absolutely.
What kind of future, we want to create with it.
And speaking of the future, Musk is, as I'm sure you know, a big advocate for space exploration.
Oh, yeah.
And he sees it as crucial, for the long-term survival of humanity.
Right. He talks about colonizing Mars, right?
He does.
As a way to like ensure that humanity has a backup plan just in case something happens.
An insurance policy.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
Exactly. Like what if something catastrophic happens here on Earth,
Right. We got to have somewhere else to go.
Exactly.
And it sounds pretty far-fetched to some people.
Yeah.
But he's serious about it,
He is. He sees it as a fundamental part of who we are. Yeah.
Right. Driven by our curiosity.
Exactly. That desire to push boundaries.
Exactly.
And he's not just talking about it. He's actively working on it with SpaceX.
He is.
It's amazing to think that we might actually see, humans living on Mars, in our lifetime.
It's definitely a possibility. It is. And, his vision for the future of humanity doesn't stop there either.
What else?
Yeah.
What else does he have in mind?
Well, he's a big believer in the potential of sustainable energy.
Okay, yeah.
To solve some of the world's most pressing problems.
Okay, so that's where Tesla comes in.
Right, exactly, yeah. He's not just building electric cars.
Right.
He's trying to create, a whole ecosystem of sustainable energy solutions.
Right.
You know?
He's thinking big picture, for sure.
He is. He sees a future where we can transition away from fossil fuels.
Okay.
And create a cleaner, more sustainable world.
Okay, that's ambitious. I like it.
It is ambitious. It is. But, he's already made significant progress, right? I mean, Tesla's one of the most valuable companies in the world now.
That's crazy.
And electric vehicles they're becoming more and more mainstream.
They are. They are. You see them everywhere now.
Right? Exact. Yeah. It's a testament to his vision, though,
Yeah, it is. It is.
And his ability to make these visions a reality.
He's a doer. For sure.
He is. He doesn't just dream about the future. He builds it.
Yeah, exactly.
And I think, that's what makes him such a compelling figure.
Yeah.
Even if you don't agree with everything he says.
Of course. Of course.
It's inspiring in a way.
Yeah. It's a reminder that we have the power to shape our own destiny.
Totally.
Both individually and collectively.
Right. It's an empowering message. But it also comes with a lot of responsibility.
Absolutely. Yeah. I mean, the choices that we make today are going to determine the kind of world we live in tomorrow.
It's deep. I like it.
And Musk, he's urging us to make those choices wisely.
To be bold.
To be bold, innovative, to think beyond the limitations of the present.
Exactly.
But also to be responsible,
Right, of course.
Consider the ethical implications of our actions. Make sure that progress benefits everyone.
For sure. For sure.
So, as we wrap up this deep dive, I just want to,
yeah,
leave you with a final thought to kind of ponder.
Okay, hit me with it.
Okay, so Musk, he talks a lot about the accelerating pace of technological advancement.
He does.
And he says that in 20 years, the world will be almost unrecognizable.
Wow.
From the world we live in today.
That's a big statement.
It is. If that's true, and we can barely imagine what that world will be like, how can we prepare for it?
That's the question, isn't it?
It is. What skills are we going to need? What knowledge? What mindsets?
Yeah. How do we navigate that uncharted territory?
It's a tough one. I don't know if there's an easy answer.
There might not be.
But it's a question we need to be asking ourselves, I think.
We do, if we want to be ready for whatever's coming.
Exactly.
Exactly.
And I think the most important takeaway from this deep dive is that the future isn't something that's predetermined. It's something that we're creating.
Okay, I like that. Through our choices and our actions every single day.
So we have the power.
We do. We have the power to shape the future.
And the more informed and engaged we are,
yeah,
the better equipped we'll be to face those challenges and opportunities.
Absolutely.
So keep those minds open, stay curious, never stop exploring.
Couldn't have said it better myself.
Until next time, keep diving deep.